let me tell you, you are in for a treat with these panelists. We just sat and had a little huddle before this, and the conversation was already so rich. There's so much to discuss, and we have 45 minutes to do it, so we're going to dive in. My name is Morgan Nyrick, and I am the Director of the Office of Statewide Marketing and Tourism for the state of Connecticut, and I'm thrilled to be here with this incredible group of panelists. I want to toss it over to them. Please share your name and give us the 30-second boilerplate of who you are and what you do.
Yes, and first, who's taking pictures for us and sending it to me? Pictures and video. We have enough creators in the house. AirDrop, text me, DM. We'll figure it out after. Just housekeeping. My name is Shira Lazar. I'm the founder and CEO of What's Trending. We're a digital media brand and publisher covering what's trending on social media, so been in the game for a long time, like 20 years. Pre-YouTube, and I also create content around creator economy trends, emerging tech, and AI, as well as launched an initiative called Creators for Mental Health, which led me to more advocacy work and policy work, and helped co-develop the Creator Bill of Rights with Congressman Ro Khanna, which has led recently to more of an kind of community creator advocacy group, which you're all welcome to be part of as we work at a local, federal, and even global level to create creator frameworks with government and policy.
Awesome. My name is Lindsay Gamble, and I am part-time marketer, or not part-time, half marketer and half creator. So today I work at a company called IZEA, which is an influence marketing agency, and working with enterprise consumer brands and helping them connect with creators for social media campaigns. And previously I was at a company called Later doing similar work. On the creator side, similar, I read about the creator economy, work with brands in the B2B space, social media platforms, on sponsored content. And previously I also was more of a hiking lifestyle creator. So I've kind of had multiple chapters of being a creator. So for me it's really an honor to be able to speak about the two perspectives that I ideally bring, a POV that is reflective of the two important parts when we think about creator economy initiatives and influence marketing as a whole.
Hi everyone. I know a lot of faces in the room, but for the folks that don't know me, I'm Mimi. I'm an influencer based in Connecticut, and I'm also the founder of Creator House, which is, I'll talk a little bit more on the panel probably, but it's really exciting building community for influencers and creators in the state of Connecticut, and really trying to be a bridge and facilitate creator monetization between brands, small businesses, and creators. But first and foremost, it's community for creators because we need it, and there's a huge creator economy here. And I'm just really excited to talk more about the work we're doing.
Did anyone hear me? No.
I was here. Oh, that sounds good. Hello. Oh, that sounds better.
Good?
So I want to ask, can you hear me now? Okay. I want to ask, how many in this room are content creators?
Wow.
Okay. All right. That'll help guide my questions as well, because we have questions here for both brands and creators. So I want to start by talking a little bit about the creator economy, about why it's important, why we should be paying attention. I think, as many of you in this room know and have experienced, there's a lot of stigmas around what it means to be an influencer, what it means to be a content creator, and it's not always given the merit that it deserves, but it's a newer industry, right? So that's developing, and I'd love to hear from you. Why should we be paying attention to the creator economy? Why should we be taking it seriously?
Well, we could number drop right now because when you share the numbers, it's hard to debate. And so it's going to be a $500 billion industry by 2030. Yes. Now where's all our money? No. According to IAB, there are 1.5 million full-time creators in the U.S., huge amount, and I'm sure even more part-time. And I'm not talking about hobbyists, so I think it's also important to define a creator. I mean, we have creators here. So, and for those who aren't, it's not someone who's just doing it as a hobby. My mom is a content creator, but there's a difference between a hobbyist and someone who's you're actually doing this for a living and making money professionally on these platforms. Doesn't mean it needs to be full-time or even part-time, but you're part of the growing economy of it as well.
Yeah, I just think that if you think about life today, everything really revolves around creators, individuals, influencers. To me, the name doesn't matter as much, but it's more about just honoring the respect of someone being able to take their phone, their computer, create something, share their passion, and build an audience around it. And so even, being in higher ed, it's what Syracuse University is doing and building out their Center for the Creative Economy is like a great example of how powerful creators are, right? Like people want to go into that, that career path. People want to help creators. And so whether you believe it or not today, and obviously I think everyone in this room believes in the power of creators because you're here, it's something you have to embrace from a company standpoint, right? Like creators, individuals are the ones that help you deliver that message, help you reach the audiences, help you reach those prospects. And we're seeing it in entertainment, we're seeing it in academics, we're seeing it in sports, we're seeing it all over culture. And so I think, we won't be having this conversation 5 years from now because it'll really just be kind of even more mainstream. But I would say that's why I think everyone should really, embrace creators.
And Mimi, I don't know if you want to add anything. She wanted to change the angle.
Well,
She's creating as we speak.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Okay. Well, actually, when I think of the creator economy, I think of freedom, right? Whenever I saw influencers online or creators online, I wanted the freedom they have. And obviously that's subjective because when you see people online, it doesn't necessarily mean they're happy and, have the resources that they need to be successful. But what I knew when I wanted to be a creator and influencer, I wanted to do this sustainably. I wanted to do this in a way where I was using my platform for good. There's a lot of influencers in the state of Connecticut, but I make the selective and decisive decision that if you're going to be part of the creator economy, that what we're building here with Creator House, I want you to be using your platform for good. Like we're helping small businesses, we're very mindful of our brands, and also the legacy of Connecticut. We're ambassadors of the state. But with that, with freedom, right, I think of time freedom, I think of financial freedom, I think of health freedom, and also location freedom. And I do think that with the creator economy, all those things can be possible, but the infrastructure is important in order to build that. So.
And I just wanted to add, because there are other kind of numbers that are important. Pew Research does great data or has great data and reports around this in terms of news consumption. And more people getting their news, as we know, from our feeds and from creators. And so I think it's important to acknowledge, as a creator industry, there's definitely disruptive change happening as a workforce. As an economy as a whole, we're all part of it because what we're consuming and buying is connected to this industry and economy. So we should care about it, if not for the next generation who all want to be creators, if not because our own workforces are changing in workplaces and we're all going to be part of the digital gig economy, whether we like it or not. Or we're going to be solopreneurs and founders and having to use these spaces to market, build our audience, and connect with the community. But then also as consumers, we should care about it because you should care about what you're consuming, just like we care about the ingredients and the food that we're eating and how those companies are operating and how much in integrity they are and they're doing things properly. So I look at it in a very holistic way, which is like, why should we care? Well, because we're each experiencing it from a different angle and entryway.
So Mimi, you mentioned infrastructure a little bit, and I'd like to go there. One thing I noticed as I've been out as representative of the state, brands understand the importance, are beginning to understand the importance of creator partnerships, and they're looking to create and build those collaborations. And creators are doing the same. They're looking to get their names out. They're small businesses in their own right, and I find that both sides are a little bit frustrated at times. So what is broken in the middle, would all of you say, and what are some of the ways that we can work to build that infrastructure?
Just give me your money. Who knows that trend? Just give me my money. No, I mean, it's frustrating, right? But also look at the economy we're in. And also I do think politics do play a role, whether we like it or not. It does play a role in funding in general and how people kind of think about allocating budgets. But I just think regarding infrastructure, small businesses, big brands, whatever the size of the business, creators need to be part of the budget allocation. It's like an integral part of your budget. So if you are a business, or if you work in the city, if you work in the state, whatever role or capacity you play, definitely include creators as part of your marketing spend, because we can transform the life of your business. I'm just saying. No, but on a serious note, right? Like and then on the creator side, like we are told oftentimes, oh yeah, we can't pay you, but we can give you free food. Okay, cool, but that can only be sustainable for so long. Like we have full lives. Some of us have children, some of us work full-time jobs, right? Like in order to make this sustainable, we need to have real conversations about paying creators, and then paying creators equitably. And then on the brand side, on the business side, right, what does that look like in allocating said funds?
Yeah, I can jump in. I think, a big part of just like being on both sides, I feel like I'm lucky to have the kind of perspective that's needed. And so like, it's funny when I work with brands, right? You hear brands saying like creators do this, or they charge too much, or they're too difficult to work with. Then when you talk to creators, you hear similar things about the brands. But like I think it's all about understanding. And what I love too is I imagine there's multiple people that work a full-time job, whether you're a marketer or doing something else, that are also doing content. And what I found is that I was a creator in a sense before I got into the social media world. And so I've always found that perspective to being helpful in whatever I did, right? Like even if the agency, the brands were paying, my salary, I still tried to think about the creator experience, because I think you don't have a creator economy. You don't have any, you don't have this economy that brands and agencies are making money off without creators, right? Like, and so you need to be able to see both sides on it and be able to understand that at the end of the day, you both have goals, and the way to kind of, keep it going forward is to understand how do you get what you want, but how do you also deliver, whether it's a certain amount of money or whether it's, a certain KPI or sales. And sometimes in, one-on-one scenarios with one brand, you might be giving up a little bit of leverage, right? But next time around, you might be the one that benefits more. But it's kind of like this compounding interest of just understanding at the end of the day, it's a partnership, and you both are trying to accomplish something. And the best way forward is to kind of figure out how do you do that together.
Oh, where do we start? All right, based on what you said, I think there's so much opportunity, and a lot of people are doing good. Let's not say it's like all messed up, right? I just think the best way to work together is there needs to be a win-win. We need to, yes, make sure that there's not an assumption of unpaid labor. I even have a principle where even if you have a small budget, even just having an honorarium, knowing, like, depending on what you're asking for, saying, I know this isn't your full budget, and I acknowledge you actually deserve that. I wish I could pay that. A lot of times they'll be like, well, we definitely don't have that. And like, how does that feel on the other side, right? And I think that's what gets old, constantly advocating for yourself and feeling like there's a lack of understanding on the other side, as if what you're asking for is constantly too much. And that's what really messes with your head. And then that is what creates a toxic kind of work environment. Because imagine they had to not just negotiate for their job, but negotiate almost every day of their lives. Like, that starts to really take a toll. And as a brand, I do believe, or an agency, not representing creators, but negotiating on behalf of brands, there's a responsibility to have an understanding of like, what's the best way to negotiate and have these conversations so it feels good. It's not always going to be like unicorns and rainbows, but one asking, hey, do you want me to talk to a representative first, right? Because knowing that, sometimes we have agents or managers, and we need that. We need the other person. It could be a bad cop sometimes, but it also is for someone else to have their eyes and ears there so that nothing happens. Like, we know there's someone else there making sure everything is okay. Also asking, like, okay, based on this, what is the budget? Or me knowing they're going to ask what the budget parameters are, making sure I'm going into the conversation with that. And also, why am I, working with the brand and saying yes to a budget and what I need to execute when I know as a brand that would make me ask less of creators, like give them less. So when you're pitching a brand as an agency, well, it's like you're like putting the budget aside. Bless you, the minimums that you need to pay to execute on this. A lot of times they're not actually championing for what we need. And then they're like, because we need profit, because we need this, we're going to ask them to do this. And that's it is unfair too. So a lot of times I'll tell a brand, well, if your expectations are this and you only have this budget, this is what you're going to get for it. And internally, it's like the agency and the person who's running the influencer marketing need to be pushing for that and normalizing that. We can only do so much as creators. And I feel like we all know enough and we're communicating enough to know these things. So again, there needs to be this minimum standard. I think right now it's still Wild West, and I think a lot of people are trying to create these frameworks. So for instance, Creators Guild of America created this rider, this agreement that's a template. And so a creator who maybe doesn't have representation can go there and say, here's an example of a contract so you don't get taken advantage of in that way. I mean, a lot of people use ChatGPT for legal. It's not legal advice, but have someone look at it, right? Because a lot of creators get taken advantage of, but it's also on the other side to know that we aren't resourced. We don't have a lot of people working with us a lot of times. So do the right thing. Like, don't force me to make you do the right thing. Yeah. And there's unions, by the way. We could talk about the SAG thing. There's SAG now. I think we're going to see a lot of unions, guilds, associations pop up that could be a bit of that support system. And you figure out what works for you, because the creator economy is very fragmented too. But even in California, the 30-day freelancer agreement, where you can't, if you don't pay within 30 days, unless it's maybe in the agreement, I could bring you to small claims court. All this stuff helps because a lot of us are getting paid after that. Like they're
30, net 60,
they're net
90.
and we need to normalize net 60. Is not normal. Like, we can't continue doing what we do like that. And do not say you're pro creator, pro culture, and creating these standards and these contracts. No, that does not line up.
The wonderful Shira, everyone. That's amazing.
I think what you said about it being a Wild West, I find that to be very true, because so one of the first meetings that I had with Connecticut content creators was organized by Maria Miranda at Miranda Creative Group, and got us together in a room, and it was amazing to sit there and finally have these face-to-face conversations and talk about, what can the state be doing to support, and just even pricing transparency for them. It was like the first time that these creators had also been in a room with other creators and been able to ask, well, what do you charge? How do you do this? How do you handle your contracts? So I think sometimes it's also just creating these spaces for conversation to happen, like what we're having right now, and so much of the work that you all are doing of breaking down. There's just so many barriers, and I think for the brands too, there's a lot of lack of education on, how creator partnerships work best and how to approach creators. So, I mean, I feel like it starts in these conversations as we are having today.
And we were saying in the room before, like, there's an expectation if you're a nonprofit or a small to medium-sized business. We know you're not going to pay the same as Samsung, say, right? And so there also needs to be that expectation. Like, we definitely want to create certain standards that we can't accept, like, unpaid labor and everything. There's an honorarium if I can't hit your rate, et cetera. But also there needs to be a give and take depending on where a company is at. And then it's up to both parties to decide, does this make sense for me in the long term? Is there an alignment? What feels good here? Yeah.
So let's talk about some success stories when it goes well for both sides and both the creator and the brand come out on top. What do those partnerships look like? How would you define a successful partnership or a shared success story?
I got it. I would say, it varies from creator to creator. I think, first of all, it's the experience, right? I've been lucky to be on, I guess, dozens or hundreds of campaigns on both sides. And when I think about when I love working with a brand, I think a big part is creative freedom, right? Like, I think most people create content because they're passionate about it, right? Like, you want to get paid for it, but like, whether you love sports or for me, the creative economy, writing about and being able to express myself and share my thoughts with, someone more than my own brain. And so, like, I think that's kind of the first step. Brands working with creators to allow them to, take their brand, their product, and deliver it in a way that, I hate to use the word authentic, but feels natural to them. Especially when you think about your audience. Like, in most cases, your audience is everything. And like, I probably worked with brands where, like, maybe the product was a great fit, but like I didn't feel right promoting it. Like, I used it, but like just the way that we're talking about it. And like, from a payment standpoint, it was a great experience, but maybe not from like what I was really passionate about. And then I think the other aspect is like the payment, right? Like, everyone wants to get paid. Like, you need money to live, right? And that changes. And so like, Whether it's working with a top tier brand and getting a big check, or working with a small business, like just making sure it's equitable on both sides, where whatever deliverables you're getting, you feel like you're getting compensated for that in the way that you want. And then I think from the brand side, it's like, brands are working with creators because they have to drive sales, they have to drive brand awareness, they have goals, right? Like all the brands that you wear, like people forget, like they're there to make money, right? Like that's ultimately what they need to do. And that means managing funds, that means, allocating their money where it needs to be. And so like when I'm working on behalf of a brand, like, yes, I want a creator to get paid fairly, but I also need to understand that like this brand is trying to stay in business and do it. And so for the brands, it's usually like, we have our goals. The creator helped us beat those goals. They were timely. They had communication. They didn't, do anything that impacted our brand in a negative fashion. And I think, maybe the easiest way to say when it works on both sides is like when you get that thank you, right? When the creator reaches out to the brand proactively, like, thank you for this opportunity. Like, I loved it. And the brand itself actually, gives a creator, not even feedback, but just like closes the loop, as opposed to that campaign moving on and them going on to the next creator campaign.
And for me, I mean, like, just to even bring it down to the basics. Also, I loved everything you said. Yes. I really love when a brand provides a campaign brief. And in the brief, it even talks more context about the company or about the brand. And like, so my background was HR a couple years ago, but I quit corporate to be an influencer. But I love SOPs, right? Like, how can we get organized, but also allow room for creative freedom? And just to give you an example, because we love examples, right? A brand that I worked with was Stanley, the cup. Has anyone ever know the tumbler, Stanley? Okay. So I really liked working with them because the brief was really straightforward. It was simple, and they gave me, my guardrails, like timing-wise, like as long as you post within this time frame, right, or whatever. But they also provided examples of other creators and like other videos that were really successful with, sorry, I got so excited. Provided examples of successful videos that already worked really well. And so I think that is really helpful in just guiding the beginning of the relationship. And then, like you said, kind of following up. And for me, this is something I wanted to mention earlier, like, the creator economy, or really just anything, right, in business, it's about relationships. And I think the creator economy is central, like the magic is relationship currency. And so for me, I don't really like partnering with brands just one time or businesses one time. Like, I'm a relationship. I'm not a transactional person. So I will always try to, pitch to see if we could do another partnership or whatever, something more long term. One, it's more sustainable for someone who's working for themselves, but it also it would allow for those times where maybe there isn't budget, but there's something, an experience a creator will want to work with you more because you're investing in them and because you believe in them, right? So there's so many ways this conversation can go, but I definitely wanted to share that piece.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I think about this and I think more about like the negative experiences. Yeah. Although I've gotten to be real, like I've had deals where they were overpaying me, if that makes sense, where I was like, wow, that was more than I would have asked for, but hey. But then on the other side of it, the campaign brief kept changing, like what they expected and what I pitched. As it continued, the goals changed and the creative changed. But because they were paying me so much, I was like, I'm going to do what you say. But then there was it started to be a bit of a gap. Even though I stepped it up and was professional about it and did what they needed to say, it kind of lost the cohesive nature of it. And then at the end, you're like, I think we did well. This just felt very kind of everywhere. And I would say, yeah, the brands that don't follow up, and even if just any feedback, I feel like there's a lack of that in this industry in general. We just go right to any feedback you have from us, any feedback we have from you, I don't know. Sometimes we'll be like, that was great working with you. Okay, we'll talk soon. Let's do a follow-up call. But, then we would get better too. But in general, there's a bit of a lack of that. I think that consistent brand partnerships, I love, and some of these aren't even the biggest brand deals, but I love brands that I last year worked with, both as a consultant and doing brand videos for them. I feel like I work best at that because a lot of times the brands I work with will want to pick my brain, and then plus they want to have a piece of content, and the ones that could understand how I contribute both as a strategist and community builder, plus as a creator and builder of content assets that you throw up on social. That is like the best one because I get to know their brand, what they really like. So, Pew Research has been great like that. I've worked with ManyChat a few times in that way. And that they're in touch, whether it be for the deal or to continue inviting me and connecting me to events. But I don't know if you find these days with some of these brands, like they work with some people for a bit and then like they're like, we gotta give love to give love to other folks. I'm finding that a lot. Like where the consistency, they say everyone wants consistency, 6 months to year deal. I don't know if I'm seeing that as much right now, even though everyone talks about it.
Yeah. I mean, the long-term partnership thing is, I think, in any industry, right? Like you want to work with, right? That's why people get married, right? Like, you want a long-term partner. But
what you're into.
But what I was going to say is that, like, as you both were talking, is like, I just think like sometimes it's as simple as jumping on a call or like seeing someone in person, right? Like I think, like so when I think about some of my most successful like partnerships from a creative standpoint and also from the agency side, is like just get on a Zoom. You can't do that with every person, but like once you talk to someone versus like an email, like I think you build that connection. And it's like kind of fun, like right? Like you can, if you do have some hesitations about something, like you kind of joke around, and I think you need more of that. You can't do it at scale, but like that's for anyone that's pitching to brands like local or bigger ones. Like I would offer that, and like maybe they say no, but like put a face to the name, and like I bet you'll at least get somewhere closer to what you want than like just going through email.
I was going to add one more thing. Oh God, I touched that with my lips. I'm like, hopefully it's clean. What I was going to say is I love brands that don't just reach out to me for campaigns, because I like to be kept in the loop. So, I am all about joy of missing out, but I get a little FOMO. But I like being part of the campaigns, but I also like, because I have a lot of ideas and things I want to do, and I need funding for it. I like brands that say, we know you're a part of this campaign, we paid you, but like, what ideas do you have? How can we support you and what you're doing that aligns with the culture and community we're building? And those are some of the best brands that I work with, where you're part of like their campaigns. Because it's just hard, because a lot of times you ask brands that you did campaigns with of like, can you support this that I'm doing, and this hits what I know you want? And they're like, no, but then they'll call you like, we need this by next week, and you're like, but then this whole thing I was part of that I really believed in, it just feels like, yeah, you're using me when you want to. You actually don't want to support the things that I'm doing too that are creative. So those are the best kind of brands to work with, and it's a give and take.
Well, and really quick, because I think it does tie into the rest of the conversation. Like, I feel like creators, that title is so surface level, right? A lot of us are educated with degrees, and even the folks that didn't go to college, like we are strategists, we are builders, we're video designers, we're video editors, graphic designers, strategists. Like, there's so many titles baked into one. And so when people think, oh yeah, they're just a creator, like you must not know what a content creator actually does. And so I think it's to that piece, like transparency and building trust and letting each other into our world as a creator, but then also as a brand. Like, come with me a day in my life as a content creator and what it is that I do actually. And then editing is probably like 2 or 3 more days fully after that. But and I just think that transparency is really important. But the word creator or influencer is very surface level to fully capture what we do.
So we have...
I'll let you wrangle this.
There's so many different ways that I could take this conversation, because there's so much more to talk about. But I feel like I would be not doing this panel justice if I didn't give us a chance to talk a little bit about the creator mental health piece, because there's so much work being done there amongst these panelists. So I'd love to hear, we've heard a lot about, it's challenging, this role as a content creator is challenging. There's burnout. I did freelance graphic design for a long time. There was burnout there too, but it's different because the industry was really established and respected in a different way. So I think it's even more so for content creation. So I'd love to hear what are some things creators can be doing to protect from burnout, and how can brands also consider that in the structure of partnerships?
So just to establish it, I'll be very quick. I used to do a 4-hour radio show, so I talk a lot a day. So I did a creator mental health study. It was the most comprehensive study ever done around creators of mental health in North America. A 50-page report. Go check it out at creators4mentalhealth.com/study. But some highlights that kind of informs maybe how this last few minutes will go was that 1 out of 10 creators had suicidal ideation based on their work, which is double the national average. 9 out of 10 have no specific support services. 62% had financial instability. 62% burnout, 69% financial instability, which impacted their mental health. There was a ton around unpaid labor and focus on performance. And looking at analytics, which impacted your well-being and created a negative well-being. So we have all of those stats and data, and it really showed it showed a negative story around it, but there was also some positives and action for the industry from brands, platforms, creators, and managers. So it was clear from the brand side, pricing transparency would be very helpful, and also making sure that they're not encouraging unpaid labor, because at 21 hours, which is a weird magic number, that's what is associated with negative well-being. I mean, I think any unpaid labor we shouldn't normalize, but at 21 hours a week, that was it. So that is really important. And then for managers and creators, it was, the basics, kind of taking care of yourself, not looking at analytics all the time as well, and then being aware of your unpaid labor. And then platforms, it was creating a path towards income, right? A pathway to making money, because right now it is a bit of a one-sided relationship. And I just think, as someone who's a mental health advocate and someone who's trying to build labor frameworks and look at this as a workforce, not just influencers dancing and an industry. This is a workforce and a workplace. How do we normalize giving resources and when you onboard a creator into any of your platform or your community, and that includes, mental health resources and support, and creating healthier spaces for us as digital gig workers.
That was amazing. Thank you for that. And I just want to say, from like a lived experience perspective, a lot of my creators in the room know this, but I became a creator by accident. 38 people died in my life, including my father, my best friend. So many people in my life that I love dearly have died. And so I became a creator by accident. And so not only being a creator, but then adding so much grief. And when you lose a job, if you lose a relationship, if you lose, someone who's died in your life, there's so many secondary and tertiary losses that go with that, on top of being a creator that requires you to essentially be on all of the time. And so it is really important to have boundaries. So a lot of people think I'm outside a lot, and I am, but it's to a certain extent. Slow mornings are non-negotiable for me. I do not take early mornings, and I say that loudly and proudly. If I'm taking an early morning, I must really love you, because I will not do that. Or if I need to, be there, if it's really important, I'll be there. But slow mornings is how I've kind of gotten my time back and taking care of my mental health. And then everything's on my calendar. If it's not on my calendar, it's not real and it's not happening. And then another thing, I'm in yoga, I'm doing acupuncture, I'm back in physical therapy. I have my therapist, I'm in therapy twice a week. So I'm doing the things that I need to do, but a lot of creators don't have that knowledge or that time because they're working full time, or they have, all this stuff going on. So I think, the resources are really important. The infrastructure is important, but I think a lot of this is the education, right? The information gaps that exist here. But yeah, just taking care of yourself, because we're not always going to be here. And then lastly, the point that you mentioned about just like not obsessing over analytics. The one thing for me that allowed me to detach from analytics and looking at metrics all the time, I've lost 38 people, like I mentioned. Do you think I care how many likes a video has? No, I don't. So for me personally, if I'm making a video, it's because I know that I'm going to die one day and I'm leaving something behind for my family and my friends. So it really kind of helped me detach from that. But not everyone thinks like that. So if you haven't experienced that much loss, then I want you to think about, if you have 50 likes on a post, that's 50 people in a room. Right? If you have 15 likes on a post, okay, that's a breakout room, right? So just really think about everything you're putting out online has impact, and just think about that. But take care of yourself.
So I think I might have a unique perspective. So I, up until January, I think I was maybe under 2 years, I kind of went off and started my own business. So I left my job. After 6 years, became a dad, and after 3 months of leave, I decided, I always had this itch to kind of go out my own. So part consulting, speaking, workshops, creation. And, it was fun, like, right? When you earn, it was the first, something I probably wouldn't have thought I would have done years ago, but like every dollar you earn, you appreciate that. But you work very hard for it, right? Like even, you got to pay taxes, you have family stuff. And what was interesting is one of my consulting clients, came to me with opportunity to go in-house. And like, I didn't plan that at the beginning of the year, but I actually said yes, because I thought about my experience. Like I enjoyed creating content, but it became an always on thing. I felt like I started to lose the joy in it. And I say all this to say is that I think everyone thinks that you have to have this massive following, you have to go make a ton of money. I would say if you want to create, do it on your terms. Like, I've done a lot of things in my life for free early on. Like I did a music blog that essentially I made little money, and that was for 6 years. That was a way for me to get my first job in social media. And some people might have said that it was wasted time, but that all has paid off. And so, like, if you want to work with a brand for nothing and that makes you happy, like, I would say do it. Like, I think you need to look at it from your perspective and what you care about. And for me, that was going back in house. And so, like, I get a steady paycheck. I like the job I do. I still get to work it. I still get to use the skills I had at my previous job, but I also get to work with brands on the side. And so it's much easier for me to say no. It's also much easier for me to say yes, because I know that I'm not what I do. I don't have to worry about making a living off this part that I love. And so, like, I think, that's kind of the big advice I would say is, like, think about it, what being a creator or entrepreneur on your own terms and not necessarily what is out there, even though there's a lot of money. And if you do want to create content, go back in house or switch back and forth, that's not a failure. Like I could have kept going that path, but thinking about what I want to do and kind of like, I think actually is probably like being able to double dip in both and give myself freedom. And if I want to go out, like I can do that. And then I think from the brand side, just to wrap it up from my end, is like, I talk to this too. It's just having a perspective and understanding what people go through. And like, I don't think I would think about, the importance of a creator if I didn't know what it meant on the other end. I didn't know what it meant to take a brief and not understand it and have to go back and try to put it in a piece of a video or a feed. I didn't, understand that like, hey, like, this, people would, what you get paid for a video seems like a lot of money, but the work that goes into it, like, all the recording, all the like hoping it performs. Like there's so much that goes into it.
The many takes.
Yes, and so like on the brand side, that's what I try to think about. And when I can control that from the agency side, whether it's a team I'm working with or a brand or just educating, that's the small part that I try to do. And I think if we all try to do that from our position, that can also help the mental health issue with creators, along with many other things.
And I would just say community came up as a huge thing also. And the need for that. So, when brands think about connecting with the culture and community, what does that actually mean? Are you convening people IRL? Are you supporting grassroots creator communities and what they do? If part of that is what supports us as a group of folks and the sustainability factor, what are you doing as a brand, especially when you say we are contributing to the creator community, we're the future of the creator economy? What does that actually mean in practice?
Marketing, but I'm not a content creator, and love that you're doing it with me because my background is in holistic wellness. I own a yoga studio for many years, so yes, very good. I recommend it to all. So we have 3 minutes. I think we have time for maybe 2 questions from the audience.
Yay!
This is actually for you, Shane.
Shira. Shira Prince of Power at Shira Lazar. Follow me.
Love it. You mentioned something about like a creator bill of rights, or what is that?
Yeah, it's a resolution. To be clear, it's a resolution. So Congressman Connor wrote out different ways that would support creators as an economy, as a workforce, and to be acknowledged as also small businesses. So some of it was a pathway towards monetization on platforms. It was kind of a blue sky scenario, like what we would need to be a taken care of workforce. So pathways to monetization, discounted health insurance, portable benefits, protections around IP and likeness when it comes to AI, customer service. Like a lot of what impacts us, the fact that we're building our livelihoods on these platforms, anything happens, no one is there to respond. And so having some rules and guidelines around that for these platforms. If you promise X, you need to deliver that, or else it's a consumer protection issue. It's like you're scamming people to say, you're relying on us, but we're actually not delivering on that. So it was all these things we put together as a resolution in order to get bipartisan support. Now, what I'm seeing is that a lot of people are breaking it up. So we've kind of put it out there, like, this is what creators need right now. What are you going to do as lawmakers? And so I'm seeing lawmakers take little parts of it out, even though we're trying to push it as a whole. You can imagine that that's challenging, including bipartisan support when you mention health benefits, unfortunately. Sorry, everyone. So there's a lot coming out around IP and likeness and AI, besides the deepfake scenario, but laws that